Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're diving deep into something really critical and, yeah, honestly, pretty stressful for a lot of folks. We're talking about how you actually make your money last, paycheck to paycheck. How do you get off that treadmill? Doesn't matter what your income is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. And our mission today, it's really actionable. We've looked at a whole bunch of sources, pulled out strategies that, well, they're proven, they're practical. Everything from those quick wins, the immediate cuts, what people call scrimping sometimes,
What?
all the way to the maybe tougher, more systemic changes, the long-term stuff you need for real stability. We're looking for those key things you can put into practice right away.
And we really have to start by talking about why this is so important right now. I mean, inflation, wow. Everything from just buying groceries to filling up the car feels like a shock to the budget lately. The pressure is just intense.
It really is. And you might think, okay, living paycheck to paycheck, that's a struggle for people on lower incomes, right? But the sources, they paint a really startling picture. It's broader than many people realize.
Yeah, tell us about that, because the numbers were kind of eye-opening.
They really were. I mean, just the idea of stretching dollars until the next payday, that's a regular thing for over 38 million households in the U.S. That's a lot of people.
38 million. Wow.
But here's the kicker. The sources say 2/3 of those households, they're actually classified as middle class.
2/3. Middle class.
Yeah. So this financial strain, this fragility, it's not just a low-income issue. It's hitting a huge swath of the population.
That completely changes how you think about it, doesn't it? It suggests maybe it's not always just about the amount coming in. It's also about, how it's managed, maybe expenses creeping up, what people call lifestyle creep.
Exactly. Lifestyle creep is a huge factor. We saw this Harris poll data from 2015. Okay, it's a few years old now, but the story it tells is still so relevant. It found that 1/3 of people making $75,000 or more were living paycheck to paycheck.
A third making over 75K.
And get this, a full quarter of those making $100,000 plus, also living paycheck to paycheck.
Wow. So even with what most people would consider a really good salary.
Right. Even then, habits, maybe mismanagement, maybe just not paying attention, it can totally wipe out the benefit of that higher income. And then you add in the fact that, other data shows more than 1/4 Americans have zero savings, nothing set aside.
Zero.
Yeah. And less than half feel like they could handle even a small emergency, say $500, without having to borrow money or sell something. You see this nationwide stress point. One unexpected bill can just push things over the edge.
And that pressure, it creates this really dangerous loop, right? You're stressed waiting for the next check, then the car breaks down, or someone needs to go to the doctor unexpectedly, or the utility bill is higher than usual, and bang, the whole thing falls apart.
Precisely. It's a high-stakes situation. So our goal today is really to give you the toolkit, the strategies to break that cycle. We're going to look at two main areas, basically.
Okay.
First, those immediate things, the short-term cuts to free up cash quickly.
Okay.
And second, the deeper stuff, the tougher, maybe long-term fixes that get at the root causes of why the money's so tight in the first place.
That sounds like a really solid plan. So let's start where you have to start, right?
Yeah.
Building that financial foundation.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if you don't know where your money's actually going, good luck telling it where to go.
That's absolutely the non-negotiable first step. It's the bedrock. And look, the difficulty here, it's usually not that people are intentionally being bad with money. It's often just ignorance. You genuinely don't really
See the leaks.
Exactly. You don't see the little leaks. So the sources, they're all in agreement on this. The single most powerful thing you can do right now. It sounds simple, but it takes effort. Track every single dollar. Everything you spend. No exceptions.
And I think people hear that and they think, okay, yeah, I know my rent, my car payment, the big stuff. But the sources really hammer home that it's the small things, right? The tiny purchases.
Oh, absolutely. That's where the budget death by 1,000 cuts happens. We're talking about, the $2 snack from the machine at work, the $5 bus fare you forgot about, that $15 impulse buy online that felt like nothing at the time.
Right.
These little things, they seem insignificant alone, but they add up fast. People call it the latte factor sometimes, but it's bigger than just coffee. It can easily be hundreds of dollars a month just evaporating.
So how do we actually do it? How do we force ourselves to see it, mechanically speaking?
You have to make it tangible, visible. It doesn't matter if you use an old school physical notebook or a spreadsheet or just a note app on your phone. Some people even just text themselves every time they spend money with the amount and what it was for.
Just the act of writing it down.
Yes. The simple physical act of recording it, it forces you to acknowledge it. And studies actually back this up. Just doing this, just making yourself aware of where the money's going, it most immediately starts to reduce spending. Because now you're accountable to yourself in real time.
Okay, so we track everything. We get that really clear, maybe painful picture of what's coming in and what's actually going out.
hmm
Now we need a plan, right? A structure to guide spending going forward so those impulses don't keep wrecking things. What works?
Yeah, you need a roadmap. And a really solid, widely recommended framework is the 50-30-20 rule. Heard of that one?
Yeah, I have. Break it down for us, though.
Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. You take your after-tax income, your take-home pay. 50%, that's for your absolute needs. Rent or mortgage, utilities, essential groceries, insurance, minimum debt payments, stuff you have to pay.
50% needs. Got it.
Then 30% goes towards wants. This is the discretionary stuff. Dining out, hobbies, entertainment, clothes you don't strictly need, subscriptions.
Okay, wants. 30%.
And the final 20%. That's earmarked specifically for savings and debt reduction above the minimum payments, building that emergency fund, paying down credit cards faster, saving for goals.
30, 30, 20. Needs, wants, savings, debt. Seems clear. But here's where it gets tricky, right? What if someone's already stretched super thin? Maybe they live somewhere expensive. Maybe childcare costs are huge. What if their needs are already eating up like 60 or 70% of their income? That 50% just isn't realistic right away.
That's a really crucial point, and yeah, the sources definitely acknowledge that. You have to start from where you are. You can't just magically make the numbers fit if your reality is different. So if your current situation is, say, 70% needs, 20% wants, and only 10% going to debt or savings, well, that's your starting point. 70-20-10.
So the goal is the structure, not necessarily those exact percentages immediately.
Exactly. The first goal is just to stabilize, to get that clarity, to know your actual ratios. Then, over time, you work towards shifting them. Maybe you focus on reducing needs or cutting wants to free up more for that savings and debt bucket. The real power of 50-30-20 isn't necessarily the magic numbers themselves. It's the discipline of separating needs from wants and guaranteeing something goes toward your future financial health.
That makes sense. Use it as a target to aim for.
Okay.
And what about those specific spending areas where people really struggle? You know, the impulse buys, the coffee, maybe eating out too much, where swiping a card feels too easy.
Yeah. For those trouble spots, sometimes going old school is incredibly effective. We're talking about the cash limits or the envelope system.
Right, putting actual cash in envelopes for different categories.
Exactly. You decide, okay, this month I have $100 for eating out, or $50 for coffee, or $80 for miscellaneous fun stuff. You take that physical cash out and put it in labeled envelopes. The psychology is powerful. When you physically hand over cash, you feel it leave. It registers as a loss much more than just tapping a card.
Yeah, you see the envelope getting thinner.
Right. And crucially, when the cash in that envelope is gone, it's gone. The spending in that category stops. Cold turkey. Because the money literally isn't there.
It's a hard limit. No fudging it with a credit card.
Precisely. Now, if carrying cash feels, I don't know, outdated or maybe unsafe for some people, you can adapt it. Maybe use a separate debit card just for those discretionary want categories. Load a specific amount onto it each week or month. Check the balance frequently. The principle's the same. Create a hard boundary that stops you from easily overspending, especially with credit.
Okay, so we're tracking, we have a budget framework like 50-30-20, maybe using cash for tricky spots. But why are we doing all this? It sounds like work. What's the motivation? Just avoiding debt isn't always that inspiring, is it?
That's a great point. Motivation is absolutely key. You need a why. And that comes from setting specific, realistic savings goals, something tangible you're working towards. It shouldn't feel impossible. Maybe it's saving that first $500 for a basic emergency fund. That alone is a huge stress relief.
Yeah, that $500 buffer we talked about.
Or maybe it's saving up enough to pay for holiday gifts in cash this year instead of putting them on a credit card. Or planning a small weekend getaway. Having that positive goal, that yes in mind, makes saying no to those little impulse buys today so much easier.
You know what you're saving for.
Exactly. And use tools. There are savings goal calculators online. You plug in your goal amount, the date you want to achieve it by, and it tells you exactly how much you need to set aside each week or month. It breaks down a big, maybe intimidating goal into small, manageable steps.
Okay, foundation laid. Tracking, budgeting, goals. We know where we are. We have a map. Now let's get into those immediate wins.
Yeah.
If someone needs to find extra cash in their budget, now where's the first place they should look? Where's the biggest leak usually?
Without a doubt, you need to look in the kitchen at your food spending. It's kind of ironic, right? Food is essential, obviously, but it's also where most households waste an incredible amount of money. It's often one of the biggest variable expenses each month, and it's usually the easiest place to make significant cuts pretty quickly.
Okay, let's talk waste.
Yeah.
Because the numbers on food waste are just staggering. You're literally throwing money away.
It's genuinely shocking when you see the data. The average U.S. household apparently throws out about 25% of the food they buy. A quarter of it.
A quarter, that seems incredibly high.
It is. And when you translate that into dollars, for a typical family of four, that wasted food adds up to somewhere between $110 and $200 every single month.
Wow. So potentially $1,200 to $2,400 a year just going straight into the garbage disposal or the bin.
Exactly. That's money that could be used for bills, for savings, for debt. It's pure loss. And that's before we even talk about eating out.
Right, add dining out expenses on top of that waste.
And the numbers get even bigger. The average U.S. household spends around $220 a month eating out. So if you add that $220 to, let's say, the lower end of the food waste figure, $110, you're looking at maybe $330 a month, potentially more, just in recovered food costs and avoided restaurant bills.
$330
Yeah.
just from being smarter about food.
Yeah. And think about it. That $220 spent eating out. For many families, that could cover an entire week's worth of groceries if they cooked at home instead. Switching from restaurants to home cooking is probably the single fastest way to free up a big chunk of cash.
Okay, so how do we do it? What are the practical strategies to turn that waste and restaurant spending into actual savings?
It really boils down to planning and discipline. First up, meal planning and inventory. You absolutely have to know what you're going to eat for the week before you go shopping. This stops you from just buying random stuff. Build your menu around inexpensive staples, things that stretch. Cereal, oatmeal, peanut butter and jelly, pasta, beans, rice, maybe casseroles that give you leftovers.
And the inventory part is key,
Right.
right? Checking what you already have.
Oh, critical. Before you even think about writing a shopping list, you need to raid your pantry, your fridge, your freezer, see what's hiding back there. That half-used bag of lentils, those frozen vegetables, the canned beans. Perfectly good food gets forgotten all the time. The rule is plan meals around using up what you already bought first. Stop buying duplicates.
That makes total sense. And this planning feeds directly into how you actually behave in the grocery store.
100%. You have to understand, the grocery store is basically designed to make you spend more money. The layout, the end caps, the samples, it's all about encouraging impulse buys.
So the list is your shield.
The list is your shield. Make a detailed list based on your meal plan and your inventory check. And then the hard part, stick to it. No detours down the snack aisle unless snacks were actually on the list. A really good tactic here, use grocery list apps. Or even better, try online ordering with curbside pickup or delivery.
Because you're not physically walking the aisles being tempted.
Exactly. You order only what's on your list. It removes the temptation entirely. Huge help for discipline.
Okay, list discipline. What about saving money on the actual items you do buy? Brands matter, right?
Brands matter hugely in terms of cost. The simple advice here is switch to store brands or generics immediately. Look, you can debate taste or quality on certain items maybe, but the price difference, it's not debatable. Store brands are consistently, on average, at least 25% cheaper than the national name brands.
25% cheaper, just by picking a different box off the shelf.
Yeah. If you're trying to stretch every dollar, grabbing that 25% saving on things you buy regularly, milk, bread, cereal, canned goods, cleaning supplies, it adds up incredibly fast across your whole shopping cart.
That's a massive, easy win. Okay, another quick cut, often overlooked, beverages.
Oh, definitely. Just drink tap water, seriously. If money is tight, you have to walk past the aisles of soda, fancy juices, sports drinks, bottled water, even beer and wine sometimes. Get a reusable water bottle, fill it from the tap. It's practically free. The money you save just by cutting out purchased beverages could easily pay for several days' worth of actual food.
Simple, but effective. Okay, let's touch on dining out again. We know we need to cut back, but maybe not eliminate it entirely for sanity's sake. How do you eat out smartly on a budget?
Yeah, treating it as a rare, intentional treat is the way to go. Minimize how often you do it, first and foremost. When you do go out, be strategic. Look specifically for happy hour deals or early bird specials. They often have discounted food and drinks.
Good trip.
Share an entree. Portions are often huge anyway. Order tap water. Skip the $3 sodas or expensive alcoholic drinks. Skip the appetizer. Skip the dessert. These add up fast. And if you have kids, actively look for restaurants that have kids eat free nights. That can cut the bill significantly for families.
Smart tactics. And finally, on food, we should acknowledge if things are really, really tight, there are resources available, right? People shouldn't feel ashamed to use them temporarily.
Absolutely not. Using a food bank or food pantry is a smart move if you're struggling to afford groceries, especially staple items. These resources exist to help people stabilize during tough times. Think of it as a temporary bridge while you get your budget under control and implement these other long-term savings habits. There's zero shame in that.
Okay, great advice on food. Huge potential savings there. Let's shift gears now to those recurring monthly bills, the fixed costs. These are often the biggest expenses, maybe harder to cut, but the savings can be massive and permanent, right? Because once you cut it, you save that money every single month.
Exactly. This is what we call the fixed cost audit. And yeah, it might require some tougher choices, but the payoff is huge. The sources suggest you could potentially slash 25% to 50% off these fixed monthly costs with some targeted changes. A big chunk of that, like $650 a month in potential savings, the source material mentioned, it comes from tackling these bills.
Okay, let's start with the one people often resist cutting the most, entertainment and connectivity. Cable TV, streaming services.
Yeah, the dreaded cable bill. Look, for most people, cut the cord. Ditch the traditional cable TV package. That alone is often an instant $100 plus per month back in your pocket. Maybe even more. In today's world, with all the streaming options, very few people truly need that massive, expensive cable bundle anymore.
So cut cable, then what about all those streaming services we sign up for?
You have to audit them ruthlessly. Make a list of every single streaming service, every app subscription, every recurring membership fee you pay. Most households subscribe to like three, four, maybe five services, but probably only actively use one or two regularly. Be honest with yourself. Cancel the ones you aren't using consistently. And a pro tip, if you sign up for a free trial, put a reminder in your phone calendar that same day to cancel it a day or two before the trial ends and the charges begin. Prevents those sneaky $15 or $20 fees later on.
Good one. Okay, similar principle applies to our phones, right?
Huh.
These pocket computers cost a fortune in plans and constant upgrades.
Oh, phone plans are a huge area for savings. First, investigate cheaper options. Look into prepaid cell phone plans or switch to what are called mobile virtual network operators, MVNOs.
MVNOs, explain that quickly. How are they cheaper if they use the same networks?
Right, good question. MVNOs, think Mint Mobile, Google Fi, Boost Mobile, etc. They don't own their own cell towers. They actually lease network capacity wholesale from the big guys, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, so you're using the same reliable network infrastructure. But because the MVNOs have much lower overhead, costs fewer stores, less marketing maybe, they can offer plans for significantly less, often 30% to 60% cheaper than going directly with the major carriers.
Same network, lower price. Worth looking into.
Absolutely. And the other big phone cost saver. Stop the constant upgrade cycle. Keep your current phone longer, 2 years, 3 years, even 4 if it's still working fine. Don't get sucked into financing a new $1,000 phone every couple of years. Those financing fees, often bundled into your bill, are just unnecessary interest payments.
Okay, that's real money saved, month after month. What about the bills we absolutely can't cut entirely, like internet access, maybe essential utilities? Can we still lower those?
Yes, definitely. Don't underestimate the power of negotiation. At least once a year, you should call your internet provider, maybe your cable company, if you kept a basic package. Tell them you're reviewing your bills, maybe looking at competitors. Ask politely if there are any current promotions or discounts they can apply to your account to lower your rate. Often, they'd rather give you a small discount than lose you as a customer entirely. It doesn't always work, but it costs nothing to ask.
Worth a phone call. And if someone is in real financial difficulty, like they genuinely might not be able to pay the bill, negotiation needs to become asking for help, right?
Absolutely, and do it proactively. Don't wait until the bill is overdue and you're getting shut off notices. If you're facing hardship, call your lenders, call the utility company, call the service provider. Explain the situation. Ask about assistance programs, hardship funds, deferred payment options, or just a temporary lower payment plan. Many companies have these programs available, especially now, but you usually have to ask for them.
Okay, proactive communication is key there. Now let's shift from bills to our actual shopping habits. Moving away from impulse buys towards being more intentional. How do we break that cycle, especially for bigger, non-essential purchases?
The best tool here is the power of delay. The sources consistently recommend implementing the 30-day rule. The idea is, before you make any significant non-essential purchase, and you define significant, maybe anything over $50 or $100, you enforce a mandatory waiting period. You see the item you want, you acknowledge the desire, and then you wait for 30 days.
30 days. That seems like a long time in today's instant gratification world. What's the psychology there?
It does two things. One, it forces you to actually consider if it's a fleeting want or a genuine need or strong desire. It interrupts that immediate emotional impulse to buy. Often after 30 days, the urgency completely disappears. You realize you didn't really need it, or you found something else, or your priorities shifted. It trains your brain to resist those impulses. And two, sometimes there's a bonus if it was something you saw online and maybe put in your cart. Leaving it there for a while often triggers the retailer to send you a discount code trying to entice you back to complete the purchase. So waiting can sometimes save you money directly too.
Using the system against itself. I like it. We also need to get better at resisting the lure of sales and discounts, right? Retailers are masters at making us feel like we have to buy now or miss out.
Oh, completely. You need to cultivate skepticism, tune out the constant barrage of coupon codes, flash sale emails, limited time offers. Remember that fundamental principle the source mentioned? It's 100% off if you don't buy it.
That's a good mantra.
Yeah,
100% off if you don't buy it.
exactly. And avoid that classic trap. Buying more stuff just to hit a discount threshold. Spend $100, get $20 off. If you only went in needing a $60 item, you just spend an extra $40 unnecessarily to save $20. That's not saving, that's overspending. Stick to what you actually need.
Right. Focus on the need, not the deal.
Yeah.
Okay, related to smart buying. When we do buy essentials, especially things like pantry staples or paper goods, we need to compare based on unit price, right? Especially with warehouse clubs.
Always compare the price per unit or price per ounce per sheet, whatever the relevant measure is. It's usually printed right there on the shelf tag. This is absolutely essential when deciding if buying in bulk at a warehouse store is actually cheaper than buying a smaller size at the regular grocery store, perhaps when it's on sale. For example, a huge box of cereal might seem like a deal, but is the price per ounce lower than the store brand on sale at the supermarket? You have to do the quick math. Don't assume bulk is always cheaper per unit.
But generally for things you use a lot and that don't spoil, bulk can be cheaper.
Often, yes. For things like toilet paper, paper towels, pasta, rice, canned goods, cleaning supplies items with a long shelf life that you know you'll use, buying the larger bulk size usually offers significant savings per unit compared to constantly buying small packages. Just make sure you have space to store it and you'll actually use it before it expires or goes bad.
Okay, unit pricing. Got it. Let's talk about thrifting and secondhand buying. This seems like a huge area for savings, especially for things like clothes.
Huge. Buying secondhand is one of the smartest frugal moves you can make. We're talking local thrift stores, consignment shops, even online platforms like Poshmark, Depop, eBay, Facebook Marketplace. You can find high-quality clothing, household goods, furniture, books, kids' toys, often at massive discounts like 30% to 70% off what they'd cost new. It's especially brilliant for things like kids' clothes, which they grow out of so quickly it barely makes sense to buy new.
Good point. Any tips for thrifting effectively?
Yeah, know your prices. Just because it's secondhand doesn't automatically make it a great deal. Compare prices if you can. And maybe still apply that 30-day rule for larger furniture items to avoid impulse buys, even at the thrift store. Inspect items carefully for damage before buying.
Makes sense. And what about gift giving? Holidays, birthdays, they can blow a budget fast if you're not careful. How do you handle gifting frugally?
You have to shift your mindset away from expensive store-bought gifts being the default. Get creative. Offer your time or skills. Give the gift of a home-cooked meal, babysitting services, help with yard work, or bake something delicious. These often move more than another store-bought item anyway. If you are buying gifts, plan ahead. Set up a dedicated savings bucket or envelope just for gifts and contribute to it throughout the year. Then try to buy items during big sales periods like Black Friday or end-of-season clearances to maximize your budget.
Planning ahead is key there. Okay, last point on smarter shopping. Leveraging free stuff and community resources.
Yes. Don't overlook the power of your local community and sharing economy. Look into things like the Free Cycle Network or local Buy Nothing groups, often found on Facebook. People in your neighborhood give away items they no longer need, absolutely free. You can find amazing things: furniture, toys, clothes, tools. Also, check your local library, community center websites, or even churches. They often host free events, workshops, sometimes even free meal programs or community drives. Libraries often have passes for free admission to local museums, too. And don't forget simple trading. Swap clothes with friends, trade books you finished, maybe trade services. It costs nothing but fosters community.
Lots of creative ways to save there. Okay, we've hit structure, food, bills, shopping. Now let's move into the really high-impact areas. Transportation, utilities, and the big one, debt. These feel like the changes that can fundamentally shift your financial picture long term.
They really are. These are often bigger lifestyle adjustments, but the potential savings are enormous. Let's start with transportation. Depending on how much you currently drive, the sources suggest you could potentially cut your transportation costs by 20%, even up to 40%. And that's looking beyond just the price of gas.
Right. It's the total cost, gas, maintenance, insurance, the car itself.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest levers we can pull?
The absolute biggest is car use reduction. Find ways to simply drive less. Can you carpool to work with a colleague or neighbor? Even sharing the ride a few days a week cuts costs significantly. Can you use public transit? Could you bike or walk for shorter trips instead of automatically hopping in the car? Every mile you don't drive saves not just gas money, but also reduces wear and tear, maintenance needs, and slows down the depreciation of your vehicle.
Okay, drive less. What about making the driving we do more efficient?
Yeah, fuel efficiency habits matter. First, bundle your errands. Plan your route to make multiple stops in one trip, instead of making several separate short trips. Cold starts, use more gas. Keep up with your car's maintenance schedule, regular oil changes, properly inflated tires. Underinflated tires are a major drag on fuel economy, and your driving style counts. Avoid aggressive acceleration and hard braking. Drive the speed limit. Smooth and steady saves gas. Also, use apps like Gas Buddy to find the cheapest gas stations near you before you fill up. Those cents per gallon add up.
Good reminders. What if you're stuck with a high car payment or extensive insurance? Any wiggle room there?
Definitely worth investigating. If interest rates have fallen since you bought your car, look into refinancing your auto loan. Even shaving off 1 or 2 percentage points can save you hundreds, maybe thousands, over the remaining loan term. And absolutely shop around for car insurance every year, or at least every couple of years. Don't just auto-renew. Get quotes from multiple companies. Loyalty rarely pays with insurance. Also, consider if you can afford a higher deductible. If you have a decent emergency fund, raising your deductible from, say, $500 to $1,000 can significantly lower your monthly premium.
Okay, exclude refinancing and shop insurance. What about for people who really don't drive much at all? Is ditching car ownership entirely ever feasible?
It absolutely can be, especially if you live in an area with good public transport or walkability and you only need a car occasionally. Think about the total cost of owning that car. The payment, insurance, gas, registration, maintenance, parking, depreciation. It can easily be $5,000, $8,000, even $10,000 a year or more. If you only drive a few times a month, you might find it's dramatically cheaper to use car sharing services like Turo or Getaround just for those specific trips, or even occasional ride shares or taxis. You have to run the numbers for your specific situation, but ditching the car can be a massive budget booster for low-mileage drivers.
Worth considering for sure.
Okay.
Next big category, energy and utilities at home. Like transportation, these are recurring costs where small changes can add up to real savings over time. Potential for a 15–30% reduction.
Yeah, absolutely. And many of these are about forming simple, efficient habits. A big one is tackling vampire power, also called phantom load. These are all the electronics and appliances that suck electricity even when they're turned off or in standby mode.
The little lights that stay on.
Exactly. TVs, chargers plugged into the wall, even without a device attached. Computers, gaming consoles, older cable boxes.
Yeah.
They're constantly drawing a little bit of power. You need to get in the habit of unplugging these things when they're not actively in use. Or, even easier, plug them into smart power strips.
Smart power strips, how do they help?
Some smart strips have a master outlet. You plug your TV into the master, then you plug your cable box, sound bar, game console into the other outlets. When you turn the TV off, the power strip automatically cuts power completely to all the other connected devices. It eliminates that vampire drain effortlessly. They cost a bit up front, but pay for themselves pretty quickly in energy savings, especially with known energy hogs like old DVRs or game consoles, which can cost you $50, $100 a year just sitting there idle.
That's clever. Okay,
Yeah.
what about heating and cooling? That's usually the biggest chunk of the utility bill.
Thermostat discipline is crucial here. It doesn't have to be drastic. Just lowering your thermostat by 1 or 2 degrees in the winter, or raising it 1 or 2 degrees in the summer when you're home, can make a noticeable difference. Even more savings if you adjust it more significantly when you're asleep or away from home. A programmable or smart thermostat makes this easy. The key is also consistency. Try to maintain a steady temperature rather than constantly cranking it up and down, which makes your HVAC system work harder and use more energy.
Small changes, big impact. Any other quick energy-saving habits?
Yeah, a few easy ones. Switch any remaining old incandescent light bulbs to LEDs. LEDs use about 75% less energy and last way longer. Wash your clothes in cold water whenever possible. Heating water is a major energy cost for washing machines. Modern detergents work great in cold water. Hang clothes to dry instead of using the electric dryer, especially in warmer months. Dryers are huge energy consumers. And finally, check for drafts. Plug air leaks around windows and doors with weather stripping or caulk. Keep that conditioned air inside where it belongs. In some states with deregulated energy, you can even shop around for different electricity or gas suppliers to find lower rates.
Great practical tips. Okay, now we have to tackle the elephant in the room for many people living paycheck to paycheck, debt and building savings. This feels like the core struggle.
It really is. And this often requires not just practical changes, but a psychological shift, especially around credit card use. First, a really important warning from the sources. Avoid short-term debt traps at all costs. This means resisting the urge to pay regular bills with a credit card just because you're short on cash that month. It also means not raiding your 401k or retirement savings to cover current expenses unless it's an absolute last resort dire emergency.
Why are those so dangerous? They seem like quick fixes.
Because they never solve the underlying problem, which is usually an imbalance between income and spending. Putting bills on a credit card just pushes the problem down the road and adds high interest on top, often 20% or more. That high interest credit card debt is frequently the main reason people get stuck in the paycheck to paycheck cycle in the first place. And raiding retirement funds has huge long-term consequences and penalties.
So instead of shuffling debt around, the focus has to be on eliminating the high interest stuff.
Exactly. You need to aggressively attack high interest debt, primarily credit cards. Use strategies like the debt snowball, paying off smallest balances first for motivation, or the debt avalanche, paying off highest interest rates first to save the most money. Whichever method keeps you motivated, this means paying significantly more than the minimum payment each month. Dedicate any extra money you free up from budget cuts directly to paying down that principal balance faster.
Get that high interest debt monkey off your back. What about student loans? They can be a huge burden too.
Yeah, student loans need careful management. Explore all your options. Are you eligible for an income-driven repayment (IDR) plan? These can lower your monthly payment based on your income and family size, making it more manageable, though it might extend the repayment term. Could you refinance your student loans, especially private ones, to potentially get a lower interest rate? Compare offers carefully. Also, check if your loan servicer offers an interest rate discount for signing up for autopay. It's usually small, maybe 0.25%, but every little bit helps lower the total cost.
Okay, manage student loans smartly. Once the high interest debt is under control, or maybe even while working on it, we need to start building savings. That emergency fund is critical.
Absolutely It's your buffer against falling right back into debt when the unexpected happens. Now, the standard advice from financial experts is to aim for 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses in an emergency fund. But let's be real, if you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, that sounds completely impossible.
Yeah, totally overwhelming.
So don't focus on the big number initially. The vital first step, the immediate goal, should be much smaller. Save $500. Just focus on getting that first $500 set aside. That small cushion is often enough to cover a minor car repair, a medical copay, or a higher utility bill without having to reach for a credit card. It breaks the cycle. It's a huge psychological win.
That feels achievable. $500 first. And where should we keep that emergency money?
Right.
Not just in a regular checking account, right?
Definitely not. You want it accessible but slightly separate so you're not tempted to dip into it for non-emergencies. And crucially, you want it working for you, even just a little. Keep your emergency fund and any other short-term savings in a high-yield savings account, HYSA.
Okay, HYSAs. We hear about them a lot now. Why are they better than just a regular savings account at the bank down the street?
The difference in interest earned is massive, especially with current rates. Your traditional savings account at a big brick-and-mortar bank might be paying you like 0.1% interest per year, maybe even less, practically nothing. HYSAs, which are usually offered by online banks with lower overhead costs, are currently offering rates significantly higher, maybe 4%, 5%, sometimes even more depending on the bank and the market. So if you have that $500 saved, in an HYSA at 4.5%, you'd earn over $20 in interest in a year. In a traditional account at 0.1%, you'd earn 50 cents. It's free money that helps your savings grow faster just by being in the right place.
Okay, HYSA is a no-brainer for emergency funds. How do we make sure we actually build that fund consistently? It's easy for savings goals to fall by the wayside.
Automation is your absolute best friend here. Treat savings like a bill you have to pay to yourself. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your HYSA every payday. Or, even better, see if your employer allows you to split your direct deposit, sending a fixed amount or percentage of each paycheck directly into your savings account before you even see it. This makes saving effortless and removes the temptation to spend the money because it's already gone to savings.
Pay yourself first, automatically. What's a good target percentage to aim for once the high-interest debt is gone or under
The
control?
general recommendation is to aim for saving 10% to 20% of your paycheck. Start where you can, maybe 5%, and gradually increase it as you get more comfortable with your budget. And another tip, if your bank offers it, use digital savings buckets or sub-accounts within your HYSA. Label one emergency fund, another vacation, another new car fund. Seeing the money earmarked for specific goals makes it psychologically harder to raid the emergency fund for something that isn't a true emergency.
Great tips. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground. The foundation, the cuts, the big system changes. Let's wrap up with mindset, that ongoing creative frugality that makes this
Yeah, the
sustainable.
mindset shift is really important for making these changes stick long term. It's about embracing a DIY mindset where possible. Before you automatically hire someone, ask yourself, can I do this myself? Basic cleaning, mowing the lawn, simple home maintenance or repairs. There are YouTube tutorials for almost everything these days. Fixing a leaky faucet, patching a small hole in drywall, changing your car's air filter. Give it a try first. If you genuinely can't do it or need specialized tools, okay, then call a pro. But try the DIY route first.
Save money and learn a new skill. What about making the things we do buy last longer? Stretching supplies.
Absolutely. It's about intentional reuse and reducing usage. Can you rinse out and reuse that Ziploc bag one more time if it just held dry crackers? Can you use a cloth napkin instead of a paper one? Look for single-use items you can replace with reusable ones or just use less of. And be mindful of how much product you're using. Do you really need a full cap of laundry detergent, or would 3/4 work just as well? Use slightly less shampoo, less dish soap, less toothpaste. The package instructions often encourage overuse. Experiment to find the minimum effective amount. That $15 bottle of conditioner might last you an extra month or two.
Small adjustments, but they compound. This all feeds into avoiding that lifestyle creep we mentioned earlier, right?
Right.
Especially for middle-income folks who get a raise.
Exactly. Avoiding lifestyle creep is crucial for building wealth, not just getting by. It's that natural tendency to increase your spending as your income goes up. You get a promotion, you feel like you deserve a nicer car, a bigger house, more frequent expensive meals out. You have to be incredibly conscious about this. When you do get a raise or bonus, make a plan for that extra money before it hits your account. Decide that, say, 50% of it will go directly to increased savings or faster debt payoff, maybe 30% to planned upgrades or goals, and only 20% to slightly increase discretionary spending. Don't let it just get absorbed into mindless spending increases.
Be intentional with increases. Okay. Finally, we have to acknowledge reality. Sometimes, even with the best budgeting and frugality efforts, things are just too tight. Maybe due to job loss, illness, or just crushing inflation. When cutting isn't enough, where can people turn for help?
That's a really important point. Frugality has limits. There are safety nets available. For households with lower incomes, definitely explore government assistance programs. Things like SNFP, food stamps, WIC for women, infants, children, LIHEP, energy assistance, subsidized childcare options. Don't hesitate to see if you qualify. And for anyone struggling to find resources, a critical number to know in the U.S. is 211. You can call 211 or visit 211.org online. It connects you confidentially 24/7 to local community specialists who can provide referrals for housing assistance, healthcare, food pantries, crisis support, and more. It's a central hub for finding local help.
211. That's a great resource to remember. And we circle back to what you said earlier about bills. If you genuinely can't pay, don't just ignore it.
Please don't ignore it. That usually makes things worse. Contact the service provider immediately. Call the utility company, the credit card company, the hospital billing department, your landlord. Explain your situation honestly and ask about hardship programs, rebates, extended payment plans, or temporary assistance. Many providers would rather work out a plan with you than send you to collections. Communication is key.
Okay. This has been incredibly thorough. We've gone from tracking pennies to tackling major debts and finding community resources. If we had to boil this whole deep dive down, what's the core message you want people to take
I
away?
think the core concept is intentionality and recognizing the power of consistent small changes. We talked about finding maybe $300 plus just by tackling food waste and dining out less, maybe another $100 plus by cutting cable and optimizing phone plans. These things add up fast. Reducing your budget by 20%, 25%, maybe even more, like that $650 a month example the source used. It's not really about feeling deprived. It's about making conscious, intentional choices about where you want your money to go instead of letting it just disappear. And the absolute starting point, the key takeaway, you have to track where it's going now. Awareness is step one. You can't change what you don't measure.
That intentionality and the tracking
Yeah.
and building that initial emergency fund, even just $500, that seems like the crucial first buffer. You mentioned less than half of Americans could handle that $500 surprise. Having it changes the game.
It completely changes the game. It breaks the immediate cycle of relying on high-interest debt for every little bump in the road. That peace of mind, you really can't put a price tag on it. Ultimately, this isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about reducing financial stress, gaining control, and building a more stable foundation, especially when the economy feels uncertain. That emergency fund, however small you start, is absolutely vital for that peace of mind.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, something to mull over after this deep dive. Think about this. How much are you really paying every day for convenience? If convenience grabbing takeout because you're tired, the premium subscriptions you barely use, always getting the newest phone, paying extra for pre-cut vegetables if that's the financial opposite of intentionality. How many little convenience taxes are you paying daily, weekly, monthly that are eating away at your ability to save for your future goals? Maybe try starting today. Pick one non-essential item you were thinking of buying, something over $50 maybe, and just start the 30-day delay. See what happens.